In this video I'm going to be showing you how to change the complete timing chain kit as well as one of the VVT units for a Jaguar V6. These are the parts in the timing chain kit. There is 2 tensioners, 2 guides, 2 chains and the sprocket. This runs both of the chains on it. And this is one of the VVT units. I'm just replacing that on one side. I also have the Jaguar workshop manual. Show me step by step how to do this. There's 23 steps to changing the timing kit, and I'll also include changing one of the VVT units in all of this. So the first step is to remove the covers, so the front cover and the valve cover. So that's done already, so skip over that and go into step 2. Step 2 is to remove the spark plugs. Next step is to remove the crank position sensor wheel. This slides on. What you need to remember about this is that it only goes on one direction, so the teeth are facing in this particular engine, but they changed it later on in later V6 engines so it was pointing out. So really the best way to do it is to check on the wheel itself here and it says front. Step 4 is to install the crankshaft bolt and the washer that comes with that. The washer is used for the Jag engine. It's not actually used for the Rocketeer installation, but I just kept it, so I'll throw that on now. Definitely do not want to cross thread this on. Next up, you rotate the crankshaft until the keyway here is at 7 o'clock, which should mean that your intake then is at 1 o'clock on this marking here, and your exhaust is at 8 o'clock. The marking is on here currently, so I need to rotate this around. It's important that if you miss this, if you were to turn it too far, for example, never turn it counterclockwise, because you can actually, it's an interference engine, so you can cause issues there. So you should just go back around 360 degrees again. After rotating this again, I can't seem to match up those values of 7 o'clock, 1 o'clock and 8 o'clock. I finally figured it out. Basically, you have to follow the orientation of the engine and think about each bank like that. So the left bank, or well, they call this the right bank because it's as if you're sitting in a driver's seat. And this bank like this. So the keyway down here is at 7 o'clock. I don't know if you can see that. It's in here. This one looks like it's at 12 o'clock if you look at it straight on, but that's not the way to look at it. You look at it like this. So now it's at 1 o'clock and this one is at 8 o'clock. So if you can confirm this on the workshop manual, so you can see here they're saying that's 1 o'clock and that's 8 o'clock. It's because you're meant to look at it that way. That makes sense. Step 6 is to release the ratchet on the tensioner. So when you release the ratchet, you need to push back in the retainer and then you put in the pin that comes in it when you buy it, just to keep the tension off permanently. Step 9 is to remove the tensioner itself. Step 10 is to remove this outer chain guide. There's no bolts to hold this guide in, so you just slide it out like this. It sits onto this pin, this dowel. So I'm just comparing this guide. This is the one I just took off with the parts, the genuine Jaguar parts from the kit, and I can see that it's a completely different design. The dimensions do seem to be the same as far as, you know, where the pin is inserted, where the tensioner makes contact with is here. There's also another kind of a channel that seems to be lined up there, but it's completely different design. There's a very large kind of wall on the outside to stop the chain from wandering off on this original part, and a smaller one on this side. Whereas this has got kind of smaller walls on the nylon itself. It's a little bit lighter overall apart, so it'll be interesting. Step 11 is to take off the chain itself. And I have hit a snag already. See if you can notice something between the old timing chain and the new one. Apart from the different design, the teeth. It's also, the new one is 8mm between the links, and the old one is 10mm between the links. So this is the wrong chain, will not fit the sprockets, will not fit the crank sprocket or the cam sockets. Won't fit the new VVT unit that I bought as well. So I'm going to have to send this back. Unfortunately, this came from Germany, so that's going to delay things. So I was considering swapping over to the newer 8mm chain, which is the kit that I had got. But it would mean swapping over the cam sprockets and these older VVT units from the old engine, and I wouldn't be able to use that new VVT unit that I had purchased. But that plan basically hasn't worked out, because this sprocket here on the exhaust side is actually non-removable. It's attached to the cam itself. There's no way to take that off. So that would mean I'd have to take the whole cam out, and these really aren't in that great condition on this older engine, so I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do instead is keep with the 10mm chain. I'm going to put back on the tensioners. I had changed these tensioners to spurious ones, but the design was slightly different when I noticed, and after that I noticed it matches the 8mm chain version. So I think they might be the wrong tensioners actually. So I'm going to put back on the old tensioners, the 10mm tensioners. It didn't really change anything anyway when I changed them over. So the only thing I'm going to change is this VVT unit with the new one. So that means reinstalling the old tensioners, reinstalling the old 10mm chain, putting new VVT unit on here, and putting it all back together. So much for the step-by-step timing kit swap, but there you go, things took a left turn. Everything's back together now with the new VVT unit and all the old chain and tensioners, and I'm just going to give it its first start. So there's good news and bad news. The good news is that there doesn't seem to be that kind of chainy noise coming from the top of the left bank. The bad news is that it seems to be running on 3 cylinders. So the whole left bank just doesn't seem to be running at all. It also appears to be running incredibly rich. It's a very strong petrol smell coming out. So I have a funny feeling that the timing, I set the timing wrong when I put the chain back on. Possibly 180 degrees out of sync or something like that. I don't know. I'm just going to look into the settings now again and double check it all, and hopefully fix that and put it all back together. Okay, I've now taken off the front cover and valve covers for I don't know how many times. I've lost count. But this is going to be the 3rd time I've taken off the timing chain on this bank, and it just seems to be not timed correctly. It's either running on 3 cylinders or else it's backfiring quite a lot. So I think the problem that I've been encountering is that, hold on, I'll switch around the camera here. So each time I've had the timing chain off on this side, I haven't touched this side. So I've been just assuming that, you know, this side is timed correctly. And, you know, trying to line this up to where on the instructions it says to where you have the pulleys lined up to where you take the chain off. I've been trying to put it on that same orientation. But really what I'm going to do is follow all the steps here and take off both chains, both tensioners, and literally follow step by step of which orientation. So the markers for when you take off the chain versus when you put them on are different, and I really think that's at the heart of the issue that I'm having. So third time lucky, it's better work. It's all back together now and I have a really good feeling about this. Went through the complete timing chain change on both banks and everything seemed to go according to plan to the instructions. So this will be the first start. It's running on 6 cylinders finally. So after I let it warm up and revved it a bit, the rattle still seems to be there. It just doesn't seem to have made any difference at all. I took the car out for a drive just to the end of the estate and back, and it's making really good power. So I've just decided to have it as a rolling project, put it on the road, put some miles on it and see if anything changes with the rattle. Does it get any worse or better, and possibly tackle it in the winter. So I'm going to bring it for an NCT, that's the car test in Ireland, tomorrow, and I'm going to a car meet on Sunday called Cars and Coffee, and hopefully if everything goes well with the NCT, I'm getting the insurance and motor tax sorted today as well. I should be able to bring it to Cars and Coffee and show it for the first time. So as you can hear, now that I've disconnected the VVT solenoids from the loom here, the noise seems to have gone away. So here's the results. It's passed all the tests from the NCT, but unfortunately there's a weird situation at the moment in Ireland where the lifts to get underneath the car and check out all the suspension and steering elements are broken in every NCT centre in Ireland, or at least they're being replaced because there was some fault found with some of them. So I actually have to come back and get all the suspension checked. But just as far as, you know, alignment, brake performance and kind of balance from left to right, emissions, lights, you know, all those things were correct and fine. So that is brilliant. I'm going to celebrate passing the test by driving with the top down for the first time this winter / spring. So I've driven it to the NCT centre, it's passed on emissions and everything else, and the power is just phenomenal out of this thing. particularly on the top end. I just didn't realise it would have such a howl on it, because you just can't test that, under load in a garage like that when you're revving it. So I am very, very happy. I'm just going to leave the VVT disconnected. It seems to be much happier that way. I'm going to get another remap session done, because the last remap session I had, or tuning session, was on the old engine. So this one is driving very well, but there's times when you're on very, very light throttle that it's starting to break up a small bit. So I'm going to get that cleaned up hopefully in the next week or so. So stoked. Now on the road legal, taxed, insured and tested. I'll have to go back and get a second part on the test, because our lifts are broken, to get all the suspension checked out, but I know from the feel of it, it's just brilliant.